Um, we spend a massive amount of energy in our lives worrying about what I guess you'd call the obvious threats.
Right. The things we can clearly see.
Yeah. Like you lock the deadbolt at night, you tell your kids probably 1,000 times not to talk to strangers.
Especially the proverbial guy in the white van.
Exactly. It's the stuff of nightmares.
Yeah.
But the older I get and the more we do these deep dives, the more I realize that the white van scenario is, well, it's actually the comfortable lie we tell ourselves.
It really is. Because it externalizes the threat.
Yeah.
It makes the danger something out there, something
Right.
alien.
Right. But the unsettling reality, and I mean, it is really hard to sit with this, the most dangerous threats often hide in the places we feel the absolutely safest.
The sanctuaries.
Exactly. The places that are supposed to be safe havens. The community center.
Hmm.
The local business. The church.
It's what sociologists often call the paradox of trust.
The paradox of trust.
Yeah, we lower our physiological and psychological defenses when we enter these community spaces because the social contract implies safety.
Right. We assume that if someone is a leader there or a business owner there, they've been vetted. We just assume they are one of the good guys.
And when that contract is broken, it is devastating.
It's completely devastating. And that brings us to the story we are unpacking today. I have to be honest with you, I was reading through the source material for this deep dive, specifically this really detailed investigation by FOX13 Memphis, and I literally had to put my coffee down a few times.
It's incredibly heavy.
It is heavy. We are looking at court records, police reports, and a deeply heartbreaking exclusive interview with a victim's mother. Our mission today is to unpack how two men, both holding positions of trust within the community, allegedly exploited the exact same child.
It really is a case study in institutional failure. We aren't just looking at a crime. We are looking at a pattern, an entire ecosystem that allowed these crimes to happen.
Right. And to be clear, right up front, we are reporting strictly on the facts provided by the FOX13 Memphis investigation and the accompanying legal documents. We aren't endorsing any specific viewpoints, but we are aiming to clarify the events exactly as they were reported.
Absolutely.
So let's set the scene. We are in Memphis, Tennessee. Let's start with the breaking news that triggered this whole investigation. It centers on a man named Martinius Tyler.
Right.
Now, if you lived in this community and you saw Martinius Tyler walking down the street, or you saw his resume, you'd probably think, wow, this guy is a total pillar of the community.
On paper, absolutely. He is an entrepreneur. He runs or ran a couple of businesses that sound incredibly legitimate.
Right.
One was called the Memphis Obituary Company, and the other was Tyler's Graphics and Printing.
Tyler's Graphics and Printing, I mean, that sounds so normal.
Very normal.
It sounds like the place you go to get birthday invitations.
Yeah.
Or flyers for a school bake sale.
And that normalcy is the weapon.
Wow.
These aren't back alley operations we are talking about. These are storefronts. They have overhead. They have equipment. They imply stability and safety to the public.
Right. If you are a parent, you see a storefront, you see regular business hours, and your guard just naturally goes down.
Exactly. And that business aspect is absolutely central to the how of this case.
Yes, because according to the investigation, the victim, a young boy, had a really specific interest. He was creative. He was super into graphic design.
Which is a fantastic thing for a kid to be into.
Right. If my kid came to me and said, hey, I want to learn graphic design, I would be thrilled. I would want to nurture that.
Any parent would.
And here comes Tyler, the local business owner, seemingly stepping in as a mentor.
This is a textbook example of what experts call interest-based grooming.
Interest-based grooming.
Yes, it is incredibly effective because it targets the child's ambition and the parent's desire to support that ambition. You identify a child's passion, in this case, graphic design,
Right.
and you position yourself as the gatekeeper. You say, I have the professional printers, I have the software, come learn the trade.
The victim's mother described it in the report, and it just makes your stomach drop because of how entirely innocent it looked from the outside.
What did she say?
She said Tyler would take the boy over to the shop to, quote, print out things and help assemble orders. It looked exactly like a local internship.
Exactly. It frames the isolation as professional development.
Wow, yeah.
Gives a perfectly legitimate reason for the adult and the child to be alone together behind closed doors. Oh, we're just finishing up a print run.
It weaponizes the child's hobby against the parent's intuition.
It really does.
But the reality, according to the indictment that just came down recently on February 10th, 2026, was horrifying. It was not an internship. Tyler has been indicted on charges of human trafficking and aggravated sexual exploitation of a minor.
And we really need to pause on those specific charges for a second. Trafficking and aggravated exploitation.
Right, because that phrasing is very specific.
It is. It suggests a transactional nature to the abuse. It suggests that the child wasn't just being abused, but was being used.
Tyler is currently in custody, and his bail is set at $200,000.
Yeah.
So clearly, the legal system is taking this very seriously now.
Yes.
But here is where this story pivots from, a bad guy gets caught, to asking, how on earth did this happen? Because Tyler's not the only figure in this story.
No. To understand how a child gets targeted like this, we have to look at the broader environment. And that leads us to the first man arrested in this case.
A man named DeMarcus Smith.
Right. And unlike Tyler, who was hiding behind this business owner facade, DeMarcus Smith was a known entity.
And when we say known, we mean known to the federal government.
Exactly. This is where the timeline gets absolutely infuriating. DeMarcus Smith was a former pastor in a place called Oak Hill Missionary Baptist Church.
Okay.
But back in 2016, he pleaded guilty to possession of child pornography. And this wasn't just possession. Prosecutors said he actively coerced a boy to send sexually explicit photos.
So let's just be crystal clear for the listener. In 2016, this man is convicted of a federal sex crime involving a minor.
Correct. And he was sentenced to 7 years in federal prison for it.
Okay, so do the math with me here.
Yeah.
He was sentenced around 2016, 7 years. That puts his release right around...
It was released in 2023.
Okay, 2023. Now, you would think, logically, if someone spends 7 years in federal prison for a sex crime against a child, there would be some significant barriers to them re-entering a position of authority over families.
You'd think there'd be a giant do not enter sign on the church door, at least for any kind of leadership roles.
Exactly. You would hope.
But this is where the rehabilitation narrative completely collapses into systemic negligence. Almost immediately upon his release in 2023, Smith didn't just quietly reintegrate into society. He went right back to the pulpit.
Immediately.
Immediately. The FOX 13 investigation found that within months of his release, he was active at a different church. By June 2024, so we are talking barely a year out of a federal prison cell, social media posts show he was promoted to Sunday speaker.
Sunday speaker? I mean, that is not setting up folding chairs in the back of the gym. That is the guy with the microphone. That is the voice of authority in the room.
It is absolute, undeniable visibility. And it actually gets worse.
How does it get worse?
In September 2024, there were flyers circulating for a clergy appreciation celebration, and he was featured on them.
Wait. Pause. A clergy appreciation celebration
Yes.
for a registered sex offender who had been out of prison for 18 months?
18 months.
Honestly, how does that happen? Do these institutions not check?
That is the million-dollar question here. In Tennessee, like most states, the sex offender registry isn't some secret government file locked away in the Pentagon.
Right, it's public.
It is a public, easily searchable database. You can literally pull it up on your phone in 30 seconds. You type in DeMarcus Smith, and his mugshot and his conviction details pop right up.
So whoever was designing and printing those clergy appreciation flyers,
They had to either not look at all, or they looked and decided it just didn't matter.
that is terrifying.
Yeah.
Because it implies that the institution valued his charisma or his speaking ability more than the safety of the actual congregation.
Or it speaks to a culture where forgiveness is, frankly, weaponized.
What do you mean by that?
In many religious communities, there's a profound pressure to forgive and restore the fallen brother, and conceptually, that is a beautiful theological concept.
Yeah.
But when you apply it to child safety, it is incredibly dangerous. A predator can be spiritually forgiven, but he is still a predator. You simply cannot confuse spiritual status with practical risk assessment.
And tragically, because he was allowed back in, the pattern repeated itself. Smith didn't just preach, he reoffended.
He did. In May 2025, Smith pleaded guilty to new charges. And here is the heartbreaking connection.
Yeah.
These new charges involve the exact same child that the business owner, Martinius Tyler, is currently accused of trafficking.
So the system eventually caught Smith again.
Yes, he was sentenced to 30 years in prison for these new crimes.
Okay, so Smith is locked up for 30 years. Tyler is currently in jail waiting for his trial. But here's the part of the FOX 13 investigation that literally made my jaw hit the floor.
The connection.
Yes, we have been talking about them like they're two separate predators operating independently. You know, the graphic design guy over here and the preacher over there, but they weren't separate.
No. And this is the detail that truly keeps me up at night. If you look at the leadership roster of the church, where Smith was the Sunday speaker.
This is the Jordan River Missionary Baptist Church, right?
Correct. Smith is a Sunday speaker there. And if you look at Martinius Tyler's social media, he lists himself as a pastor and an elder at Jordan River Missionary Baptist Church.
The exact same church.
The same building, the same institution.
I want you, the listener, to just visualize that for a second. You go to a church service. On the stage, you have the Sunday speaker, a registered sex offender fresh out of federal prison. And sitting in the elder's chair, or the pastor's chair, is a man who is allegedly running a human trafficking operation out of his local print shop. And they are both targeting the same child in that congregation.
It creates a closed loop of abuse.
Also loop.
Imagine being that child. The religious authority figures, the people your parents tell you to listen to respect, to obey, they are the ones hurting you.
Who do you even tell?
Exactly. If you tell the pastor, he's one of them. If you tell the Sunday speaker, he's the other one.
It effectively silences the victim before they can even speak up. It is total entrapment.
And it speaks to a catastrophic failure of vetting within that church's leadership. It is statistically improbable that two predators land in the top leadership of a small organization by accident.
Right.
It strongly suggests an environment where hard questions simply weren't asked, or where access to children was just completely open.
It makes you wonder about the print shop, too. Was the church somehow funneling kids to the print shop for these internships?
We don't have concrete evidence of a formal pipeline in the reporting, but the social connection is undeniable. The trust transferred directly from the church to the business.
Right. Oh, Brother Tyler's an elder. Let your son go work at his shop.
Exactly. The credibility of the church essentially laundered the reputation of the predator.
And while we are analyzing the villains here, we really have to talk about the hero of this story. Because there is one.
Absolutely.
The system failed. The church failed. The background checks failed. But the mother didn't.
No, she didn't. And reading her interview with FOX13, you can feel the immense anguish, but you can also feel her incredible strength. She remains unidentified to protect her son, but her actions are what finally broke this case open.
It started with that nagging feeling, right? That intuition. She mentioned she never actually met DeMarcus Smith in person, but she knew something was wrong.
She trusted her gut.
And she had to make a choice that I think a lot of parents really struggle with today, the privacy versus safety debate.
Right. You check the phone. We all want to trust our teenagers. We want to give them their space and independence. But in this digital age, the phone is often the crime scene.
She decided to check. She went through her son's phone, and she told the reporter, quote, "When I opened it up, my heart shattered."
That phrase just sticks with you. My heart shattered.
Yeah.
Because she didn't just find inappropriate jokes or bad language. She found nude photos. She found highly sexual conversations. She found the literal digital footprint of her son being exploited by these men she thought were community leaders.
Can you just imagine that moment? You were standing in your kitchen, you look at a screen, and suddenly you realize that while you thought your son was learning graphic design or getting spiritual guidance, he was actually living in a nightmare.
It is the ultimate betrayal of a parent's trust. But, and this is crucial, she acted.
She didn't hesitate.
She didn't sweep it under the rug out of embarrassment. She took that phone and she went straight to the police. That evidence is what led to the charges against Smith, and it eventually connected the dots to Tyler.
And yet, even with Smith getting 30 years in prison, she doesn't feel like justice has fully been served.
No, she doesn't. She told the reporter it wasn't enough time, because I don't think it's enough time in the world to give somebody for a crime like this.
And I think any parent listening gets that completely. 30 years is a number. It's a jail cell. But it doesn't give the kid his childhood back.
That is the lasting tragedy of abuse. The legal system deals in time served, but the victim deals in trauma endured.
Yeah.
30 years keeps Smith off the street, which is good. It protects future victims. But it cannot undo the psychological rewiring that happened to that young boy.
So we have got Smith serving his 30 years. We have got Tyler newly indicted. The wheels of justice are grinding away. But for us, for you listening to this, what do we actually do with this information? Because it is terrifying.
It is terrifying. But we have to turn that terror into practical vigilance. If we synthesize all of this, the core failure here was the assumption of safety.
Assuming the title makes the man safe.
Exactly. The assumption that because someone has a title like pastor, business owner, or elder, they are inherently safe.
We rely on those labels as shortcuts. It's just human nature.
We do. We outsource our vetting to the institution. We assume the church checked the Sunday speaker. We assume the local chamber of commerce checked the business owner. But this case proves, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that you cannot outsource vigilance.
So what does that look like practically? Because I don't want to tell you to become a paranoid recluse who never lets your kids leave the house. That's no way to live.
No, absolutely not. Mentorship is a good thing. Community involvement is a good thing. But trust, but verify needs to be the new gold standard for parents.
Trust but verify.
Yes, if your child is going to a mentorship program at a local business, walk in there. Spend time there. Ask questions about who else is in the building.
And regarding the background checks, I mean, we talked about how easy it is.
Use the tools available to you. Like we said, the sex offender registry is public. If someone is in a position of authority over your child, whether it is a coach, a tutor, or a pastor, run the name.
It takes 30 seconds.
It takes 30 seconds. It is not an insult to their character. It is simply a standard safety protocol in the modern world.
That is a really good point. We feel awkward doing it. We feel like we're being overly suspicious or rude. But if the clergy appreciation organizers had done that one awkward Google search, they would have seen the federal mugshot.
And they could have stopped Smith from having access to a whole new congregation of vulnerable families. The temporary awkwardness is a very small price to pay for permanent safety.
And we also need to talk about the open door policy, because that played a huge role here.
Right. Predators thrive in isolation. Tyler used the print shop to get the child alone. Smith used his role to get the child alone. Any mentorship or activity that requires total secrecy or one-on-one isolation behind closed doors should be a massive red flag.
Oh, we're just going to the back room to check the inventory.
Or come to my office for a private prayer session.
Right.
Real mentorship happens in the light. It happens with open doors. If an adult demands privacy with your child, that is not mentorship. That is a boundary violation.
It is a heavy lesson, but a deeply necessary one. We want to encourage our kids to find their passions, to be ambitious, to find mentors who can guide them. And we should. That young boy wanting to be a graphic designer, that is a beautiful thing.
It really is. And as a community, we have to protect that ambition. We have to make absolutely sure the people nurturing those dreams aren't using them as bait.
Before we wrap up, I just want to circle back to that mother one more time. Because despite the horror of this entire story, her action is the reason these guys are finally off the streets.
She is the MVP here. She trusted her gut over the comfortable lie, and that takes incredible bravery.
So to you listening, check the registry, ask the awkward questions, and if something feels off, look at the phone. But beyond that, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. When we encourage children to get involved in community centers and churches, how deep do we really look into the people leading them? Are we looking at their character, or are we just looking at their titles?
Awareness is truly the only defense we have until the institutions catch up.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. I know it wasn't an easy listen, but staying informed is how we keep our own circles safe.
Absolutely.
And as always, a quick reminder that we are reporting strictly on the facts provided by the source material, specifically the investigation by FOX 13 Memphis.
Oh.
We aren't endorsing any specific viewpoints, just trying to clarify the events as they were reported.
Stay safe, everyone.
See you on the next deep dive.